What are the karmic lessons there and delays? Wherever Saturn is, it tends to delay the good things in life coming there. And second house is the house of ability to save money, the ability to deal well with your finances. Usually where Saturn, it shows mistakes we did in past lives that we have to pay. That's why in this life, the universe or whatever, our higher self, kind of holds back on the blessings of the house where Saturn is, so we can appreciate it better, so we can learn to manage it better, so we can learn to, to pay more attention in it. So that's why the delay. And usually second house is the ability to save, to manage your finances. So people tend to have a bit more of a poverty consciousness then. Even if they're born in rich families, they were made somehow aware, or somehow in a sense, often more than 60-70%. There are always exclusions, but often the person would have a sense of lack when it comes to their self-worth, either connected to their family having been a bit more poor than the other people in the area, or because they were, or because they themselves, even if the family was normal, they themselves kind of have a consciousness of lack when it comes to finances and resources. And as I said, the universe kind of delays the opportunities and blocks the opportunities when it comes to their ability to save. Not so much to make money, they can be able to make money from young, but to save, to amass money, it's the house of wealth, So delays there till after 30-35 when Saturn matures. After that, a person, after mid-age or after 35 onwards, a person can become a master at the area of where Saturn is, because after they having overcome so many obstacles, the person usually tries to overcompensate and work very hard in the area where Saturn is. So people who try to work very hard from the finances will be such a topic of importance in them. They'll be always trying very hard there. And even if there are delays and disappointments, eventually they tend to master the skills of the second house, which is wealth management. So later in life, after 30-35, they can, the best way to pay off the karma of Saturn is actually to work something which is connected with Saturn, but usually not recommended before you're 30, before the first Saturn return, or even 35. And later on in life, these people, once they master the lessons of Saturn, of second house, of finances and wealth, they can become great bankers, wealth managers, managers of resources, of anyone who is like even objects and any kind of resources that they have to store, preserve, or oversee or supervise in some way. Even stores of knowledge, any kind of collections and collectibles as well. Someone who can manage those things, oversee them, as I said. But the first part of life, always till around 30-35, finances, the person always finds themselves struggling to save, struggling to amass, finances. And my partner, my boyfriend, has this, so he can, I'm watching it with him first hand, but now that he's above 32, it's starting to be easier for him to manage his wealth. And actually big lessons about learning to manage finances, resources, and such issues of responsibility. But the person tends to be usually quite very responsible when it comes to their family and financial responsibility. The person tends to view these things very seriously as well, even though sometimes they might not be able to do it to the best of their abilities, because, as I said, things are blocked there from life, from the universe. Wherever Saturn is, the person always feels this sense of lack and always sometimes tries to overcompensate. So sometimes these people can act to compensate, like they just work for money. It becomes like an obsession in their head. They always feel like it's not enough, they need more. Even if they're very wealthy people, I've seen people that have a lot of money who worry that money is not enough and they need more and more. This is this consciousness of lack. Saturn doesn't always deny you money, it can deny till 30-35, but after that it might be just that the consciousness stays, that it's lacking, that there is not enough, while there is actually enough. And a lot of people with Saturn in the second house, in the second part of life, they tend to save a lot more than others, because Saturn has this kind of a retaining influence. But after it's been delayed for them, all the resources, And the second house also shows self-worth. So often the self-worth, especially in the first 30-35 years of the person's life, can be undermined. Maybe their family was poor where they were, or maybe in some way they associate their self-worth with financial abundance, and because it's denied to them, it's kind of, they undervalue, or maybe others undervalued them, and because of this undervaluing, the person feels less deserving somehow, and that's why the ability to attract resources is lower as well. But with time, with age, they're able to overcome this sense of low self-esteem and outgrow it. Again, Saturn, whatever Saturn is, later in age, this house becomes better and better. Let's see, what else is second house? Second house in astrology is the family, especially in Eastern astrology, not so much in Western, but I've seen that actually it works, you know. And the family, it means like the traditions of the family. And when Saturn in the second house, the person comes from a very traditional family, usually sometimes with poor, lowly values, especially if Saturn is in a bad sign, difficult sign, like Cancer or like Leo or like Aries, or when Cancer is in good signs, like Capricorn, Aquarius, Libra, or Taurus, you know, the signs of Venus, you know, the signs of Mercury, or its own signs, Saturnian signs. Saturn tends to give good moral but very traditional values of the family, very grounded family which taught the person the value of hard work. They always taught them that you have to gain everything through a lot of hard work, through a lot of you know, applying yourself. Things don't come easy to you, so they gave a culture of hard work and education of hard work to the child. And when Saturn is really badly like hammered or difficultly aspected by planets in the second house, then often they might be, in worst case scenario, they might be a family which was like proletarian, you know, working class family, and sometimes even the person might have some sense of shame in extreme cases, but it's more rare, you know, when Saturn is really badly placed, or where the person kind of comes from a more restrictive and oppressive family structure, because Saturn has this restrictive influence. And second house also shows what we value, you know, our self-worth, but also what we find valuable. And Saturn rules all things. So often people with Saturn in the second house can be quite attractive to antiques, especially if Saturn is in good dignity. They'll have a great sense of antiques, say Saturn in Libra, Saturn in Aquarius, in Capricorn, on Taurus, sometimes in Gemini and Virgo as well. They can have great sense of, you know, finding old value bargains, you know, or also Saturn, but Saturn also shows the possessions that we want to have, and sometimes when Saturn is not in really good dignity, people might like old things. Generally, like they might prefer, you know, when they have clothes, they'll wear them for years and years till they start having, you know, frays and holes, and they tend to keep these things longer, you know, and to wear them off, you know, a lot, or even they might like jeans that are frayed, anything that looks a bit more simple, not in your face, because Saturn is a bit more, you know, and is not in your face, it's more proletarian, it's more keyed down, you know, so their taste can be more subdued as well. And also sometimes they can border even up to the minimalistic, because Saturn clips everything, makes it simple, makes it simplistic, you know, makes it not elaborate, so such people can have taste of objects and find things valuable which are more minimalistic, you know. Okay, and also second house is what we ingest, the food we take in. And with Saturn in the second house, often such people have a good ability to control how much they eat. Actually, they should have always regular meals, but small ones, never big portions, you know, because Saturn is not about abundance. Saturn is small but regular, repetitive, you know, and such people actually, they can consciously fast much better than others, because Saturn is the planet of self-denial. So they can deny themselves food, but only if it is by their own desire. If it's for health reasons, for you know, to slim down, for spiritual reasons, they can do it better than anyone else, because this self-denial there is great. But if it's, for instance, if they're stuck somewhere on a plane, or they can't eat, or for some way the food is, there is shortage of food, this can give them great fears and great worries, actually, because it needs to come from them. Otherwise it's from outside. It might it can be a great fear factor, you know, that they can be deprived from food. And often Saturn indicates what kind of foods you can like. So simple foods, again, not complicated, foods of the folks, you know, foods are that are traditional, foods that are kind of dried and preserved, sometimes cold food. Saturn is a cold planet. Stodgy it can be as well. And in Saturn, which are in difficult signs, there might be even a food which is cheap food, you know, like junk food almost. It also food which is not very nutritional when Saturn is a bad sign, and food which is not very, or almost like the family taught the child to eat unhealthily. when Saturn is in bad signs. When it's in good signs, they taught the child to eat simple foods with small portions regularly. You know, negative signs, Saturn restricts. Maybe it was even like memory of not being fed regularly as a child, or having poor nutrition when Saturn is in bad sign or badly aspected. Okay, and let's see. Second house also shows the eyes in Eastern astrology, in Western as well, I've noticed it. So people with difficult planets like Saturn in the second house might have short-sightedness, because Saturn shortens, you know, curtails, whatever it is. So some of them might be myopic. It's not necessary. Sometimes, as I said, you might identify with a few of those things, not with everything happens there. Yes, we talk the values, the old things, the antiques, the food, the consciousness of wealth that is, and as I said, there are a lot of rich people actually who have Saturn in the second house, but usually this money is amassed slowly over time, and because they start valuing them, because the first part of their life it was more difficult when it came to money, but later on they start valuing it and managing those resources better, and also this consciousness of never it's enough, so they keep, you know, sometimes they can store big amounts of wealth, but again, it never happens suddenly. It's always with hard work, and it happens little by little. The more they age, the better their financial situation gets. And the second house also rules the face in the ancient books. So sometimes it can make the skin a tone a bit darker. Say for instance, if your family is if you're Scandinavian, or your family is blonde, you might have like a darker hair or darker eyes. Or if you're Mediterranean, you might have a bit more olive skin, or you know, if you're Indian, you might be a bit more darker, unless there are other planets, whitening planets in the second house or in the first house, which is also the complexion, like Jupiter or like Mercury, which can lighten up, you know, the skin, but usually only Saturn on its own can darken a little bit. But Saturn tends to preserve whatever it is, so it will preserve the face of such a person to look young, way in their 60s and 70s, they can look like 20, 30 years younger, so that's good news. Saturn preserves, drives up, kind of mummifies you to you look younger. Actually, your face might not look so good before you're 30, because Saturn like delays the good fruits of something, so you might look even older, or a bit, you know, tormented till 30, and then after 30 comes Saturn in the second, makes you look younger and younger. There. Whoa, so I think that's it. And as I said, there are two ways of Saturn acting in the second house. One is when it's trying to compensate and only works hard about money, money, money. And the other one is when it gets so fearful that it just breaks down and says, fuck it, I don't care about money, I'm not going to do anything about it anymore. So they start almost like become like hippies, and they can go to both extremes. And Saturn can either overcompensate or totally deny itself something. So say, I'm never gonna do this monetary system, I don't agree with it, I don't agree with amassing money. So both extremes of characters can work out, but none of them is really healthy. You need to find the balance to do it in a healthy way, how to manage your resources. Thank you.